Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Dr. Jenn, the Intuitive Phoenix, here for our most recent edition of Pop-Up Psychic Healing. It's an opportunity for you to ask questions whether it's questions about me and the services I provide, or questions about you in your business, in your personal life, questions that might involve something that's got you stuck or stressed or challenged, something that triggers you, something that you're feeling physically in your body. It can be, really any number of things. It is an opportunity to get to know your own voice, trust your voice. One of the things that I talk a lot about with my clients is getting to know what they're really looking for in their life or in their business. And in a lot of cases where there's a disconnect is either knowing what do you want to create or trusting what you know, so that way you can take action with confidence. So if you're seeing this live, welcome. If you're seeing this as a recording, we're glad to have you here. Then too, I would love for you to say hello, to let me know that you're here, because sometimes I see numbers pop up on my screen, and if we are friends or somehow connected, then I may know that you're here, but otherwise I may not. So say hello and let me know where you're joining from, because in some of the past lives, not only have I connected to some people who live in the local area where I do, but in other cases, other parts of the country, other parts of the state I live in, and even other parts of the world. So I always find that fascinating to see where people are joining from. So feel free to jump on, say hello, let me know where you are, and then what is going on for you, or what do you have questions about, and I'll get those answered. So I'm just going to allow that to sit for a moment and see where people are. Let me see. I'm hearing some. All right, I'm getting some messages, but they're not coming through for some reason on Facebook. And I know the last time that I did a pop-up and I was talking away thinking people hadn't said anything, and then all of a sudden, just like now, all these messages started popping up. So I'm glad that people are saying hello. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Sonia. I'm so glad you're both here. As I was just sharing with people, I want you to say hello. I want you to tell me where you're calling in or joining us from, because we get a sense of where people are. And then if you've got a question or something that's going on, feel free to ask. And that can be physical. Sometimes I think people feel, because this is psychic healing, that we're not talking about physical pain, or because it's not something that you would talk necessarily to a psychic about. But then again, I don't really know what people talk to psychics about. I haven't done that too much myself. But if there's something going on physically in your body, something that says, you know what, I'm not feeling 100%. Maybe you've got some stress, or you've got some pain or discomfort, you can feel free to ask questions about something that affects your physical health, because that is something that we can make a difference with. I have a friend that I know who, we were out one night And this is an example of how physical healing can sometimes occur. We're out one night, we're having a conversation, and all of a sudden her leg started vibrating. It was really moving. It was very noticeable. And she shared basically that she has restless leg syndrome, and it gets uncomfortable and it aches. And being that we had been enjoying ourselves, it was getting later. And because it was getting later, she was starting to feel these symptoms and experience these symptoms. And so I asked her if I could do a simple clearing, if she was open to that. And she said, yes, anything that you are willing to do, you go for it. And so I did the clearing like I do in these sessions, like I do in my group and my private sessions as well. And after a few minutes, I noticed her leg stopped moving. But being that I didn't know how she typically experienced it, I didn't know if it would fluctuate. And then all of a sudden, it registered on her face that her leg had stopped moving. And all of a sudden she stops mid-sentence and she's like, that's never happened before. She's like, once it starts, it pretty much goes all night. And not only did it stop for the rest of the evening, when I followed up with her a couple of days later, she had had one night that she felt the restless leg a little bit, and then it went away, and she hasn't experienced it since. So if you have something going on physically in your life, in your body, that you would like to ask about or check in about, feel free to post that in the comments and I will respond. And I see Debbie told me that she is joining from Oklahoma. Well, welcome, Debbie, from Oklahoma. I know she's joined before. If you're comfortable saying where you're checking in from or joining us from, please do, because I always like to see where people are coming from. And again, if you've got something physical going on, pain, discomfort, change in function, or maybe you're just not feeling good in your body, or you've got tension or stress, feel free to ask about that or something else that might be going on in your life. I just wanted to be able to highlight that physical aspect tonight because that is what led me to the work that I do, was physical healing. I practiced as a chiropractor for years, and through helping people address their health through their physical body, I now have just moved on to expand not just to the physical body, but beyond. But we can still work and heal our physical body. Let's see. Debbie says she's going through some stuff and she feels like her heart and soul have been ripped out. Help, please. Now, what I will say is if you choose to share or ask something or like feedback on something, you don't have to go into a lot of details typically. Just a brief overview is often enough. So let's see what's coming through for me to say to Debbie, if there's something that we can do. And I do get yes. Okay. And Debbie has joined us before, and so she knows a little bit how this works. One of the things that we're going to do right now is, I'm pulling up my list of beliefs, because our beliefs eventually create our reality. So we want to make sure our beliefs are ones that we want to be living and that they're cleared of all blocks and are aligned to us physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally on a conscious and subconscious basis. So let me see which beliefs are coming up for Debbie. All right. All right, Debbie. The belief statement that's coming up for you: it is fun to be successful and abundant. So if you'd repeat that to yourself, well, wherever you are, repeat that. It is fun to be successful and abundant. Okay, and I'm receiving that there's some blocks to that, so I'm going to clear blocks from there. Okay. And Debbie, I'm going to ask you to repeat again. It is fun to be successful and abundant. Okay, now I'm getting a yes. Are there other beliefs to address for Debbie at this time? Yes. And whether you're joining for the first time or you've joined me in the past, if you're hearing this, again, whether it's live or recording, the statement is not just relevant to Debbie, it's relevant to all of us who are here. It supports not just her, but us as well. Okay, Debbie, the next belief statement, it is safe to be heard. So if you could repeat, it is safe to be heard. Okay, and we're seeing that there's some blocks, so I'm going to clear those blocks. Okay, and if you could repeat again, it is safe to be heard. Okay, now I get that those blocks have been cleared and it's aligned physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally within your body, within your being. Are there other beliefs to address at this time? No. Okay. Are there general priorities to address? No. Okay, and what I mean by priorities, it tells me that what we're going to focus on first. So when I'm asking other priorities, I'm asking if there's work for us to do together. So we addressed some of the priorities for you on beliefs, and then I was checking to see if there were some general ones. Sometimes we need some general decluttering. Now I'm going to see, is there a priority for Debbie regarding, how did she word it? Her heart and soul being ripped out. Yes. Okay, is there clearing for me to do around that? No. Are there recommendations? Yes. Okay. So Debbie, one of the questions that's coming up is, are you giving yourself the space and time to grieve? Are you giving yourself the space and time to experience the emotions as they're coming up? Often we find emotions uncomfortable. I can find emotions uncomfortable. I'm getting better with it in some ways, but I still find them, uncomfortable at times. And so as much as you can, give yourself permission to experience those emotions and give yourself space for those emotions. It's a loving way to show up for yourself. If somebody else had their heart and soul ripped out, we would be supportive. We would support them with love. So do that for yourself as well. Let me see if there's something else. Okay, so that's what I'm getting, Debbie, right now, is be nice to you. Give yourself the space and time to experience your emotions, to move through those emotions in a way that is loving to you. And let me know, Debbie. Okay, so she says I'm trying. Okay, the last thing I would add, Debbie, is when we are experiencing something like it sounds like you are, that like our heart and soul literally feeling like it's being ripped out, because it's so uncomfortable, we want to get it done. We don't want to keep feeling like that. As much as you can, allow yourself the space, whether it's hours or days or longer. I had an experience last year, and I would use the phrase have my heart ripped out. And it was something that, even though I kind of knew it was coming, when it actually did, I was surprised on how much it hurt. I was surprised how devastating it was, because I was pretty sure it was coming. And through the grieving process that I went through, that took weeks. This was, it was big. It was huge. And it took weeks for me to, I won't say fully, because I still am processing bits and pieces of it even now. But in those following, I'll say 3 to 6 weeks, that I was like in the heart and depths of that grieving and feeling process. Once I went through that, and a lot of it was just allowing myself to be in it and trying not to push it away, stuff it, or pretend like it didn't happen, or pretend like things were okay. Once I got through that, I had all of these huge ahas. I had all of these, these new awareness, and I let, a shit ton of crap go. Old beliefs, things that on some level I wasn't even aware were there. So while I don't wish trauma and heartache and pain on anyone, it can be healing in the process that we go through once it's occurred. Does that make sense, Debbie? Okay. Now, what you're saying is he isn't worth it, but you are. So the pain and emotions you're feeling are for, how do I say this? They're for you. So we've often created these stories in our head that because somebody else is not worth it, that means we should not be hurting, that we should not be grieving. And it has nothing to do with him. With the level of grief and pain and heartache that you're feeling, that's about you. So you process that, you feel that for you. You work through that for you. It has nothing to do with him. Let me see if I can give an example. Can I give an example? I often say, if something is painful, if something triggers us, if something feels like it literally like stabs us in the heart or in the gut, it's because there is trauma that is ready for us to heal within ourselves. And that's what I would say is happening with you right now, Debbie, is there is trauma within yourself that's ready to be healed. And it often goes back to something in our childhood, something that's been passed down to us from our ancestors, or even something in a past life. So this is how you may have heard the term spiritual bypass. This is how sometimes we bypass what we're asked to do. You may even be thinking like, I've been there and done that. How did I get here again? I know I did that with my past relationships. And I'd find myself in the same cycle. And what it comes down to is because I hadn't done the healing for myself. And that's what you're being asked to do right now, Debbie. Does that make sense? Let me know if it does. And let me see what else we've got going on here. If you're here, say hello, say where you're from. And we started off tonight talking about physical pain, illness, discomfort, things that we feel physically in our body. Because a lot of times when people think about psychic healing or energetic healing, they're not necessarily thinking, certainly through Facebook virtually, they're not necessarily thinking something that they feel physically in their body. And we can certainly do some work with that. So Sonia and Scott, welcome. They're here from Indy. And then Jan says, I went to the doctor today because I had a stroke. My blood pressure was high and I had an operation on my neck. I had to have a stent put in, and it's been a long process. She also says she's from England and that we have got together before, she thinks. And yes, I do believe her name is familiar. So welcome back. Let me see. Okay, and Debbie says yes, what I was saying does make sense for her. Thank you, Debbie, for passing that on. And I'll just add, in addition to allowing yourself the space, feel free to, well, I recommend reach out to the people that can support you, that can give you that space and just let you know that you are loved for who you are. I know that can make a huge difference. All right, so Jan went to the doctor's today. Jan, let me see, is this a question for me to ask? No, okay, I don't need to know that. Let me see if there's something I can do for Jan. Okay, Jan, we're going to address beliefs. And okay, Jan, the belief statement for you, I'm an infinitely powerful healer. Again, that statement, I'm an infinitely powerful healer. We are all healers of ourselves and for others. Again, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, in our own lives. And what we do for ourselves and healing ourselves also can offer healing and provide healing to others. So I want you to repeat after me, I'm an infinitely powerful healer. And I'm getting that there's some blocks to that, so I'm going to clear those blocks. Okay. And again, Debbie, not Debbie, sorry. Again, Jan, I would like you to repeat after me, I'm an infinitely powerful healer. Okay, now I'm getting yes. So the blocks to that have been cleared, and now it's aligned physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally on a conscious and subconscious basis. And so that means the path for your healing ability is clear, it's open. Why is this so important? As I mentioned, we all have healing capabilities. What our body creates, our body can also heal. And things that we experience, I mean, using a very simple example, we cut ourselves and our body's going to heal that cut over time. There's not anything that we have to do for it. In particular, keep it clean, wash it out, and it's going to take care of the rest. Our body is going to heal itself. And there are things that we can do to expand what I refer to as our healing capacity. And one is the belief that we are infinitely powerful healers. So that's one of the things that I'm offering to you right now, Jan, is the belief that you are an infinitely powerful healer. I know that this has been a long road, and I can imagine at times that you're thinking like, ugh, I just want this to be done, and you may even find it challenging that you are a powerful healer. It's been my experience, and one of the reasons I got into this field is because I had my own health challenges. At one point, it was migraine headaches that I experienced every day for over a year, and nobody could figure out what was going on. And what was being offered to me really weren't options either I wanted to follow through on, or the ones that I did choose weren't beneficial. So I say that because we're taught to rely on others for our healing. And at times it is necessary, and at times it is beneficial. At the same time, it doesn't mean we stuff or deny or ignore or don't fully utilize our healing ability. We can ramp up our healing ability even if we're using some other support, whether it's a doctor, whether it's Western medicine or alternative medicine. We can do things for ourselves to increase our healing ability, and one of them is have that belief. I hope that helps. with that, let me see if there's anything else that I can offer Jan today. And Jan, I know sometimes one of the things that people will express to me, especially if they've had a long road with whatever they're dealing with, the idea that you can go from your current state to believing, oh, I'm an infinitely powerful healer. Sometimes people say that's just too much. It's just too, I just can't get there. So at that point, I will often offer a statement of, with every breath I take, healing occurs. Or with every breath I take, my healing capacity increases. So that way, it's a statement of belief that has a progression to it. And it's not jumping from one point to what feels like an extreme or too far. Let me know how any of that resonates with you, and if you've got any other questions or comments about your current health challenges, the current health situation. Let me know if that resonates. And let's see who else is here. I see Kel has joined and Deborah has joined. I don't know who else is here. I also see something from a woman called Shafari. I can't click on Facebook stories, so I don't know what that is, at least not while I'm doing the live. If you've got a question or a comment, feel free to share that, so that way I know if I can support or help you in any way. But if you're here and you haven't already said hello, please say hello. Let me know where you're joining in from, and if you've got a question or something you want to share, a challenge maybe that you're working with. We started off this call tonight focusing a bit on physical healing, because when we can increase our healing capacity, it benefits not only ourselves as individuals, but also everybody that we come in contact with. It's been my experience, and that, at least in the United States, our healing, or our healthcare system, as it's called, and as it's set up, is not really about health. And there are ways that we can increase our healing capacity. And one of those is, I'm an infinitely powerful healer. But again, I can answer questions or address other things that may be going on in your life, whether it's personal, whether it is professional, career, relationship, business. What I see my purpose or my calling is to support people to get to know their own voice, to get to know themselves, and then in knowing themselves, learning to trust themselves. So that way, when we, for one, have an experience that is challenging, that can even be traumatic, like Debbie's currently experiencing, where she feels like her heart's ripped out. When we know and trust ourselves, our voice, then it doesn't say that life's going to be super easy or nothing's ever going to go wrong. But what happens when we know our voice and trust our voice is we know that we can handle it. We know that we've got skills and abilities that we can utilize and tap into to work through it. And we know that once we process it and move through it, that there's going to be gifts and increases in awareness and blessings that are going to come from it, that we wouldn't give up. I was sharing a little bit ago that, I had my own experience last year where I felt as if my heart got ripped out. It was, it was tough. And I learned so much from it that I wouldn't go back and do it differently. Even though I don't wish that pain and that heartache on anyone, I wouldn't choose not to experience it if it means I didn't discover what I did about myself. Yeah, I wouldn't choose for it to be different. So again, if you're joining, I can't always see who's here. Well, actually, I don't know who's actually here. I see numbers come and go, increase and decrease. And unless somebody's actively chatting with me, I don't know who's here or not. So please say hello and let me know where you're from. And if you've got questions or comments either about healing and how I do it, or the way I work with individuals, what I do in the community, I can answer questions about that. I can also answer questions that you might be experiencing that get you stuck or challenged, or wanting to scream and pull your hair out. Or maybe things are really good, and you just want to keep that momentum going. You can feel free to post about that as well, because we can make sure that, or we can do some work to make sure that pathway is clear and that there's not, address upcoming obstacles or challenges that you're moving towards. We can also do that. All right, so let's see. Who's going to be next? If you are watching this video as a recording, know that you can also post questions. You can also post comments. I will respond even if I am no longer live. So know that that's an option too. And if you're thinking like, oh, I wish I knew when Dr. Jenn does this, so that way I can join her in the future, because I know when we were talking to Jan earlier, or Debbie, they have joined my pop-ups in the past, and they've got the feel for it. But if you want to stay in touch, I know when this video ends, there's usually an option that'll pop up on your screen that lets you receive notifications every time I go live. So that would be one way to stay in touch. Another way to stay in touch is, of course, to like my Facebook page. I do post things there. And you can also join my tip community. It is a private Facebook group, or a closed, I won't say private, it's a closed Facebook group. So you do have to answer a couple of questions to gain access to it. But then it's a place where we've got daily posts and they're designed to get us thinking, help us uncover and discover things about ourselves. We will share, I'll share different tools that I develop to help us along this path. I also share videos in that group, and it's a way to receive support and get support. Well, that's the same thing, receive and get. Give support and get support, and it's a way to support each other on this healing journey, on this life journey. So if that's something that you're interested in, I will, in the comments, post the link, so that way you can join that free group. Sonia says, we're in a good space for the moment and here to support. Scott and Sonia from Indiana, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. They are, I very much appreciate their support. We have done some work in the past. So just love, see, even now, just love the way that we can give and receive support. This is what it's all about. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier that said, yes, there are aspects of our healing journey, of our life journey, that we have to address and take care of on our own. And we're not meant to do it alone. We may have to, take some steps ourselves. But when we know we have support, when we know we have a community that can stand by us, it makes a difference. So I very much appreciate, well, everybody that shows up here, whether you ask questions or are just here to hold energy and see where the conversation goes. And I see that Jenny has popped in. Hello, Jenny. Again, if you're here and you haven't already said hello, say hello. Let me know where you're joining from. And if you've got questions or comments, or maybe you're stuck with something, struggling with something, something's got you triggered, this would be an awesome time to ask your questions. And it can be something that's happening physically, which we've been discussing, or it can be emotional, mental, spiritual. It can be something going on in your life or in your business. And it can be something that you think, like, I'm not even really sure. I don't need a lot of details. You can just give me a general feel of what is going on, and often information will come through. The idea or the purpose behind all of this is that we get to know ourselves. We get to know our voice, trust our voice, and in doing that and getting to know and trust our voice, we can show up in our life with confidence. All right. Seems like a little bit of a slow evening. So if there is nobody else who has questions or comments, then I am going to wrap it up here in a moment. All right. Again, if you're interested in becoming part of a community of support focused on health and healing and just living a life that you love, then stay tuned for the comments. I will post those. I've done a lot of talking today. I will post in the comments the details to join that group. And if you've got other questions or you think of something at a later time, you can feel free to send me a message. And if you're thinking, like, I want to know more, I want to dive in, because there's things in my life that I really want to just be living life in a way that you really love, I'll also post the details that you can get on a discovery call with me, and we can check in and address those things. Love you too, Scott, you too, Sonia, and everybody else who has joined me tonight. I look forward to connecting again. In the meantime, I'm sending you health and love and ease in your transformation. Until then, bye.